James to the rescue. James is a bright red engine. He is very proud of his polished paintwork, his tidy tender, and his bubbling boiler. James thinks he is one of the most special engines on Sir Topham Hatt's railway. One morning, James puffed proudly into the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. He glowed grandly.
Good morning. Today, Sir Topham Hatt has asked me to be the Sodor Island Rescue Engine. I am to wait for the call to action.
Percy was puzzled.
What's a call to act on, Thomas?
Thomas smiled at his best friend.
A call to action is when James is told he has to go and rescue an engine.
It is the call, Percy, for me to be a hero.
Percy wheezed with wonder. James puffed with pride, and Toby trundled in. Toby beamed from buffer to buffer.
Hello, James. Sir Topham Hatt has asked me to be a rescue engine with you.
James gasped.
Why?
You might need my help.
James shuddered and juddered.
I will not need your help. Thank you, Toby.
Then, the rescue center manager walked quickly from his office.
Gordon has hit broken track crossing the fenland. James and Toby, you must chuff right away to rescue him.
James pumped his pistons. His wheels whirred.
Wait for me, James. Gordon's a big engine. You'll need my help to rescue him.
James steamed snootily.
Toby, Sodor rescue engines are steam engines. You are a steam tram. Steam trams can't be rescue engines.
Toby blinked. Thomas was cross.
Toby can be a rescue tram. He'll be the best on Sodor.
But James wasn't listening. He whooshed away with a huff and a puff, while Toby rattled and rocked behind. James steamed slowly as the children cheered.
I'm the rescue engine on Sodor for the day. I'm a very busy engine. Stand back, watch out, make way!
James wheezed up to Gordon. Gordon's front wheels were off the track.
Rescue engine to the ready! I'll pull you back on track in no time.
Toby's bell jingled and jangled.
Excuse me, James. I don't think that's a good idea. Gordon is too heavy. I'll go and fetch Rocky.
James snorted and sniffed.
I will rescue Gordon. I will not need help. Thank you, Toby.
So, James was coupled up to Gordon. James heaved and James hauled. He huffed and he puffed. His face went as red as his paintwork.
Nearly there, Gordon!
Gordon shuddered and juddered. Gordon's driving wheels fell off the track.
Bother!
Oh, the indignity.
Excuse me, James. I think we need Rocky.
No, thank you, Toby. I shall puff around to shunt Gordon back on the tracks.
On the way back to Gordon, children cheered James and Toby. James's firebox fizzed and whizzed.
I'm the rescue engine on Sodor for the day. I'm a very busy engine. Stand back, watch out, make way.
James and Toby chuffed in behind Gordon.
Rescue engine to the ready!
Gordon grunted grumpily.
Excuse me, James. I think Rocky...
No! Thank you, Toby. I do not need Rocky's help.
James buffered up behind Gordon. James shoved, and James shunted. He huffed, and he puffed. His cheeks went as red as his paintwork.
Nearly there, Gordon!
Then there was trouble. The track creaked and crumbled. Then it cracked.
Father!
Gordon groaned.
Oh, the indignity.
Toby's bell jingled and jangled.
I don't want to be a bother, James, but I think it's time for Rocky.
No, thank you, Toby. I am the rescue engine, and I have a plan.
Very good, James.
What we need is speed and spin. Back up and watch the rescue.
So, James backed up, Toby backed up, and Gordon waited. Then, James pumped his pistons. His boiler bubbled, and his firebox fizzed.
Rescue engine to the ready!
James roared and raced down the track. He hit Gordon's buffer with a biff and a bash and a terrible smash. Gordon the Grand had toppled off the track into the muddy fen, and James the rescue engine had splished and sploshed into the mud after him.
Oh, the indignity.
Oh, my paintwork!
James felt terrible.
I am not a rescue engine. I am not a hero. I am not the brightest red engine on Sodor. I am the silliest and muddiest engine.
Oh.
Toby chuffed over carefully.
Excuse me, can I help, James?
Yes, Toby. I need your help. Please go and fetch Rocky.
Happy to help, James.
Thomas was happy to help Toby. Together, they pushed and pulled Rocky to the fenland. Rocky lifted Gordon and James out of the mud and back on track.
Happy to help, James.
Thank you, Rocky. I still feel very silly, but even silly engines have to be really useful rescue engines. Puff along with me, Toby. I need your help.
Together, James and Toby were fine rescue engines. They shunted and pulled Charlie to the water tower.
Rescue engines to the ready!
They brought diesel oil to Mavis when she had run out.
Rescue engines to the ready!
And they pushed Percy to the steamworks when his traction rods rattled.
Rescue engines to the ready!
At last, at the end of a long day, James and Toby clickety-clacked along the track into the Sodor Search and Rescue Center.
We're the rescue engines on Sodor for the day. We're very busy engines. Stand back, watch out, make way.
I hear you two have been busy.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sending Toby to help me, sir. He is the best rescue tram on the whole of Sodor.
Happy Hero. Thomas is a very cheerful tank engine. He hoots and toots. He whistles and whoops as he puffs around Sodor. Thomas wants all his friends to feel just as cheery. One morning, Thomas chuffed into Knapford Station. Percy and Hero were there.
Good morning, Percy.
Good morning, Thomas. Have to hurry. Mail coming through.
Good morning, Hero.
But Hero didn't hoot or toot. Thomas was puzzled.
Good morning, Hero.
Hero wished weakly.
Good morning, Thomas.
Thomas was worried.
You seem sad, Hero.
Sad, Thomas? Maybe a little.
And Hero steamed slowly out of the station. Later, Thomas and Charlie saw Hero at the docks.
Hero is sad, Charlie.
Can you tell him a joke? That's sure to cheer him up.
Of course.
So Thomas and Charlie rattled and rolled to Hero.
Hero, what has 4 legs but never walks?
Hero thought and thought.
I don't know, Charlie.
A table!
Charlie chortled. Thomas chuckled. But Hero didn't smile.
Thank you, Charlie.
And Hero huffed heavily away. Later, Thomas saw Hero at the Sodor Search and Rescue Center.
Hero, why are you sad?
Hero smiled slightly.
I'm sad because I miss my home. The island I come from, a long way away.
Thomas's firebox fizzed.
You mustn't be alone now, Hero. You mustn't puff quietly.
I'm an older engine, Thomas. I like to puff quietly.
No, Hero. That won't make you happy. I know just how to make you happy. Follow me.
So Thomas and Hero clickety-clacked down the track and into the Misty Island Tunnel. Thomas and Hero steamed out in a while. Thomas was sure he could make his friends smile. He knew what to do. He knew where to go. The Hollow Tree Tunnel was the first thing to show. Hero could hear the birds tweeting and twittering. He smiled and he sighed.
Listen, Thomas. The birds.
But Thomas wasn't thinking about the birds.
Pump your pistons, Hero. This will make you happy.
Thomas and Hero rattled and raced. They whizzed and they wheeshed. They were red in the face. But Hero didn't smile. Hero wasn't happy.
Maybe it is time now, Thomas, for me to puff quietly.
No, Hero. I have another idea to make you happy.
And Thomas and Hero whooshed away. Thomas took Hero to the top of a hill. Hero could see the sea. He smiled and he sighed.
Look, Thomas, the sea.
But Thomas wasn't thinking about the sea.
Bubble your boiler, Hero. This will make you happy.
Thomas led Hero uphill and down. Thomas was smiling, but Hero just frowned. They whooshed and they wheeshed till their pistons might pop. And at last, Thomas laughing, they came to a stop. But Hero didn't smile. Hero wasn't happy.
I think it is time now, Thomas, for me to puff quietly.
No, Hero. I have another idea. This one is sure to make you happy.
Thomas took Hero to the logging station. Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand were busy loading Joby logs. Old Wheezy and Hee-Haw were busy throwing them around. Suddenly, Hero smiled and sighed.
Look, Thomas. Joby logs. There must be Joby trees we can visit.
But Thomas wasn't thinking about visiting Joby trees.
The logging locos are the most fun of all. I'm sure they will make you happy. Hello, Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand.
Hello,
Thomas. This is Hero.
Hello, Hero.
We're the logging locos.
Welcome to Misty Island.
One biff, one bash,
And there's always a crash.
That's right.
The logging locos biffed and bashed. They smashed, crashed. They giggled and jiggled as the logs leapt and flew. Then Hero whistled loudly.
Please, Thomas, I would like this to stop.
Thomas looked at his friend Hero. Hero wasn't happy. Hero wasn't happy at all.
I'm sorry, Hero. I wanted to make you happy. I thought I knew how to make you happy, but all I have done is make you unhappy. I haven't been a good friend to you.
Thomas felt terrible. The logging locos were worried.
We're sorry, Hero.
Thomas and the logging locos looked at Hero. He was puffing quietly. Suddenly, Thomas tooted and hooted.
Hero, you told me what makes you happy. And I thought I knew better. You are older and wiser, and I am silly. Please, would you puff quietly with me?
Hero smiled.
Of course, Thomas. I will be happy to.
First, Thomas took Hero to the top of the hill. Hero looked out to sea. He puffed quietly. He smiled and he sighed.
This is beautiful. This is like my home.
This made Thomas happy.
May I show you somewhere else to puff quietly?
Of course, Thomas.
Next, Thomas took Hero to the hollow tree tunnel. The birds sang. They warbled and whistled wonderfully. Hero listened. He puffed quietly. He smiled and he sighed.
This is beautiful. This is like my home.
This made Thomas even happier.
May I show you somewhere else to puff quietly?
Of course, Thomas.
Lastly, Thomas took Hero to the Joby Woods. Hero puffed quietly. He smiled his biggest smile.
This is beautiful. This is like my home. I am happy, Thomas.
Thomas beamed from buffer to buffer.
Thomas, you are not a silly engine. You are a very kind friend. Thank you.
And the two friends puffed quietly together. Up, up, and away. Thomas and Percy are best friends. Whenever they meet, they like to greet each other with a toot and a hoot and a whoop of joy. One morning, Thomas chuffed into Tidmouth's sheds. He was very excited.
Mr. Bubbles is bringing his big balloon show to Sodor. He's going to blow the biggest balloons ever.
Big balloons make my boiler bubble, Thomas.
Thomas laughed. He liked to see his best friend happy.
If we puff quickly, Percy, we will be in time to meet Mr. Bubbles at the docks.
So Thomas and Percy raced to the docks. Then they gasped. There was the biggest balloon Thomas and Percy had ever seen.
Fizzling fireboxes!
Sir Topham Hatt smiled.
Thomas and Percy, you will take the big balloon to the showground. You must be there by tea time. Chuff carefully.
Thomas and Percy jiggled with joy.
Yes, sir.
Gordon is to take me to pick up Lady Hat and Dowager Hat. Then we will go to the balloon show.
This is a very special, Percy.
The most special of all.
So, Percy and Thomas buffered up to the big balloon. Percy was so excited his rods rattled.
We will chuff along the woodland track. It's quiet and calm.
Percy's firebox flickered.
The balloon might be popped by the prickles on the woodland track. We should take the coast track. It's flat and fast.
Thomas was worried that the coast track might be windy, but he didn't want to upset Percy.
Very well, Percy. We'll take the coast track.
So Thomas and Percy pulled proudly away with the big balloon. The coast track was flat and fast. Percy was pleased, but Thomas was worried.
The wind has started to whip and whistle.
It puffed and it huffed the balloon up in the air and away.
Cinders and ashes!
Flatten my funnel!
We must rattle and race after the big balloon.
Percy's boiler bubbled.
No, Thomas. We should wait and watch for the big balloon. It's sure to float back to us.
Thomas wasn't sure, but he didn't want to upset Percy.
Very well, Percy.
So Thomas and Percy waited and watched. Then Gordon huffed huffily in. He was on his way to pick up Sir Topham Hatt.
What are you two doing?
We're waiting for the big balloon
to flutter and float back to us.
Gordon grunted grumpily.
The big balloon won't float back to you. The wind will whip it away.
And it did. That made Percy very upset. Thomas didn't want Percy to be upset.
Don't worry, Percy. We'll chuff back to the docks. Mr. Bubbles is sure to have another big balloon.
Mr. Bubbles had blown up another big balloon. His cheeks were red and rosy.
Thank you, Mr. Bubbles. Pump your pistons for the show, Percy.
Thomas and Percy giggled and jiggled along the track. Then they came to a tunnel.
Cinders and ashes. This tunnel is too small for the big balloon.
Buffers and bumpers.
We must chuff back to another tunnel.
Percy's funnel fizzed.
No, Thomas. I'm sure we can pull the big balloon through the tunnel.
Thomas wasn't sure at all, but he didn't want to upset his best friend Percy.
Very well, Percy. Puff on.
But the big balloon was too big. It stuck tight. Then Gordon reached in. Sir Topham Hatt was in his carriage. The big balloon blocked his track.
What are you two doing now?
We're trying to push
and pull the big balloon through the tunnel.
Gordon grunted and groaned.
Oh, it will pop.
That made Percy upset. Thomas didn't want Percy to be upset.
Don't worry, Percy. We can chuff back to the docks. Mr. Bubbles is sure to have another big balloon.
Mr. Bubbles had huffed and puffed. He had blown up another big balloon.
Thank you, Mr. Bubbles. Pump your pistons, Percy. Off we puff to the show.
Now, Thomas and Percy were late for the show. They wheeshed and they whooshed like the wind. The big balloon bobbled and wobbled. Then Gordon thundered towards them.
Out of my way! Express coming through!
Thomas and Percy screeched to a stop.
Trembling tracks!
The big balloon bounced from the flatbed, high into the sky. Then it fizzed and it whizzed, darting this way and that as it shrank smaller and smaller.
My hat!
My hat!
My hat!
All the hats were hatless.
Thomas, what are you doing?
Thomas felt terrible, and Percy was upset.
I promised to look after the big balloon, and I haven't. I didn't want Percy to be upset, and now he is. I knew what to do, but I didn't do it.
Why didn't you, Thomas?
Thomas wheeshed and whooshed.
I didn't want to upset you, Percy.
Percy smiled and sighed.
You can't upset me, Thomas. You're my best friend.
You're right, Percy.
Shall we puff back to Brendam for another balloon?
No, Percy. First, we'll ask the drivers to pick up the hats for the hats. Next, we must clear the tunnel. We'll bit and we'll bash the balloon till it pops. Lastly, we'll pick up Mr. Bubbles and another big balloon and chuff carefully along the woodland track to the show. Hooray and hurrah!
The woodland track was quiet and calm.
You were right, Thomas.
Thank you, Percy.
And the two friends smiled all the way to the big balloon show. Then, from high in the sky, another big balloon floated down.
Look at that, Gordon! The wind has brought it back to us.
And even Gordon whistled and whooped with wonder.